Presenting Benny Goodman and his music.
Hey everybody, welcome along. Hey Karen, hey Chris. Hey Luann. Hey Eric, hey Timothy. They did not fix up the, it should have fixed everything up. Okay. Oh, I see. Hey Mary, hey Mona, hey Casey, hey Marita, Betsy, people I might have missed, Kathleen, Eric. Hey everybody. Hope you've been rusty on this one.
One of Irving Berlin's greatest hits, Blue Skies.
Hey Mom, hey Jean. Hey Cindy. Hey Miles. Ah. Oh. Hey Laura. Hey everybody. Hey Dana, hey Timothy, hey Kathleen. Now Miles is still here, Kathy, don't worry about that. Ah, there he is. Hey Miles, say hi to everybody. Say hi to all the nice people. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Not necessarily something we needed to chat. Hey, Susan. Amanda, no, I haven't seen any of the Gilded Age yet. It sounded good, I just haven't had a chance to check it out. Hey, Beth. And Miles. Hey, everybody. Good evening, Kristen. Doreen, I'm not sure where Pri is right now. She's around here someplace. Oh, she's on the couch. I was just there, so I didn't think she'd have gotten there that quickly.
Presents Helen Ward singing With All My Heart.
You know, I need a drink. Hey, Jordana. Yeah, I kind of do too, but this is what I got. Oh, Heaven's Door Ascension, which isn't my favorite, but I got it. Got to drink it. CDT and CST are kind of used interchangeably, Kathy. This is the same one I've been using since probably the first time I did this one 4 years ago. Or 3 years ago. Somewhere in there. Hey, Katie. Hey, Jan. Hey, Grandma Bell. My heart. Hey, Susan. I keep getting this disk usage warning that I'm afraid might really just be a scam, and I don't quite know. I'm not clicking the link on it. Miles, gotta put in the rubber band. It's probably not wise. Hey, everybody. Miles.
Benny Goodman goes way back and gets a lot of rhythm out of Walk, Jenny Walk. Benny Goodman and his orchestra.
Yeah, Amanda, there's not many people who tune into this on YouTube or Twitch. They're available on there, but people don't really go. The conversation's over on this side. Those of you watching on Twitch or YouTube, well, Facebook is where most of the talk is. Welcome along, everybody. We'll start here in a minute or so. Hey, Paula over on YouTube, speaking of. Yeah, a lot of people kind of watch YouTube on one where they get a bigger screen, and then go to the comments over here. Now, when I'm out on the road doing stuff remotely, I can only really do it on Facebook. Trying to do it on multiple platforms at once, nothing's really worked reliably for me yet. Hey, Gene on Twitch. You know, we're gonna let Benny Goodman do one more tune here.
And they all loved it. They all loved those passions when they played by Benny Goodman. And now another one just in the same vein, Rosetta.
Oh, stale fruit snacks, that's the worst. I don't know how to save a stale fruit snack. You can't really microwave them. Steam them, maybe? A lot of my shirts seem to remind people of Star Trek lately. At least they're not red. Katie, that's awesome. Now, Graceland Saturday is sold out. Ba-da-ba-da-bum-bum. Octavio, such is the plan. We're gonna try to. I'm gonna try to arrange it so we go back to the office about midway through. Like we'll do one side, then another side, one route, then another route. Such like.
Music by Benny Goodman is being presented from the Joseph Urban Room of the Congress Hotel in downtown Chicago. And now Benny Goodman's arrangement of The Bugle Call Rang.
All right. So that's Benny wrapping it on up. So everybody, welcome. Welcome along, everybody. I am Adam for Mysterious Chicago Tours. Next week, I just want to plug immediately, next week, Mandy Crypt will be taking over on Thursday night. She is going to be running Jerks in Chicago History right here on Mysterious Chicago, because I will be off digging through archives. Well, at that time, I'll be at a concert, but you know. So, all right, I'm Adam Seltzer for Mysterious Chicago Tours, author of such books as Mysterious Chicago, the book, The Smart Alex Guide to American History, H.H. Holmes, The True History of the White City Devil, Murder Maps USA, and an all-new Graceland Cemetery, Chicago Stories, Symbols, and Secrets. Been a bit of a day. So yeah, I'll be out of town, but Mandy will be here to fill you guys in. Tonight we're going to be doing one that I've always enjoyed. I might be a little out of practice on it. It's always tends to be about my lowest number presentation overall. But every now and then I still want to bring it out because I think it's just such an interesting topic full of so many interesting stories. Now to begin with, I really should have practiced this one a little bit more, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chicago Theater is proud to announce a first. The first
clip of
time
Chicago.
anywhere there's been an act of
Often
this
that
nature.
shot of the Chicago Theater is
Not
the
only
only
one
shot
lady,
of a movie
but
shot in
two.
Chicago.
You've read about them in the papers, and now here they are, Chicago's own killer dillers, those scintillating sinners, Roxy Hart and Val McCurry.
Alright, so this is the end of the movie Chicago, also the musical Chicago, featuring a couple of women who had recently been in jail and on trial for shooting their significant others, went onto the Broadway stage, taking their act on the road, using their front page notoriety to become stars. Now, this was based on a couple of actual Chicago people, Beulah Anand and Belva Gardner. However, these two, now this was based on real cases. Originally, it was a play. A lot of people recognize themselves in this case, particularly Billy Flynn, the lawyer, W.W. O'Brien. However, neither of those two ever actually tried to go on stage afterwards. There are actually cases in Chicago history that I think are more similar to that story than Beulah and Belva. But people trying to turn front page scandals into vaudeville stardom or Broadway stardom was definitely not unheard of. In fact, it happened quite a few times. So over the course of the next half hour or so, we are going to examine a few of those cases from primarily New York and Chicago, but this was known to happen all over the country. This is Florence Burns. Florence Burns was her name. Lived in New York back at the turn of the early 20th century. She was a young rich woman who was, this was a case that they came to call affluenza. It's something that they still talk about to this day. It's a crime just because kids are rich, bored, and have too much time on their hands. But this is Florence Burns. Now, Florence ended up being the subject of a book called The Belle of Bedford Avenue by Virginia McConnell. Virginia's books never really took off. She's not particularly famous, but more than once, I have been looking up a story like, ooh, that's interesting. I wonder if anybody's done a book about that. And it turns out Virginia McConnell has. And not only has she, but she's done a really good one, too. But this is a hotel room where Walter Brooks, Florence's boyfriend, was staying in 1902. Now, Walter Brooks was a Brooklyn high school football player, or he had been a couple of years ago. That's still kind of what they knew him for, a couple of years after high school. But one day in 1902, he was found shot to death in this hotel room. There was no revolver found, so whoever shot him must have taken the gun with them, and obviously it wasn't a suicide because you can't really shoot yourself and then hide the gun. Theoretically, someone could have come in and hid it and taken it from him, but that doesn't seem particularly likely. Now, a comb was found in the room, and Brooks's mother said that that was Florence's comb. That was about all the evidence they really had, but it indicated that maybe Florence had been the murderer. Also was nude when found by a doctor. This became a wild story, one of those wild stories. If there's a naked person in the story, it's going to be that much more interesting to the newspapers. That's just kind of the way it is. So, this is a guy by the name of William Travers Jerome, who was the DA. Later, he would be the DA on quite a number of these cases, and years later, he went to jail for extortion. No, wait, that's Florence went to jail for extortion. Florence Burns was eventually exonerated, mainly on the grounds that they didn't really have any evidence against her other than the fact that a comb identified as hers was found in the hotel room. Which, I don't know, why would she have the comb out if she was shooting the guy? It doesn't really make sense. Like, comb my hair a little, shoot, comb a little, leave the comb sitting behind. More likely, I would say the comb must have been there for some other purpose. But she was then put on the stage. Once she had become famous, she decided to go on stage. Now, this is the Haydn-Bayman Music Hall in Chicago. Now, this is not the one that she was working at in New York. This is actually, you might recognize this as the Iroquois Theater in Chicago. Or is it? You know, the buildings around it don't really look exactly like the right buildings for Chicago, and it's a little bit onto the wrong part of the street. There should be a whole other building before they get to the next block. Anyway, she was working. It was Haydn-Bayman's about 6 months after it was the Iroquois. There was also a Haydn-Bayman's in New York, and Florence Burns got a job at Haydn-Bayman's, having been famous enough to put the butts into the seats. By all accounts, she wasn't very good. This caused a strike. Some of the people who thought they got there on their own merits, not because of front page notoriety, were rather mad about this, because this was obviously not a person who got on the vaudeville stage based on her talent. A dismal and pitiable failure. Wasn't scared, but couldn't sing. Now, her act was just singing a song called Gracie Brown Was a Sly Naughty Girl. Gracie Brown was a girl with a naughty wink, was Gracie Brown. She wore a straw hat and a dress that was pink, did Gracie Brown. She lived in a village where boys were few, but the boys were there had hearts that were true, for now they all sigh with a tear in their eye for Gracie Brown. Gracie Brown, she is out of town, she's the kind of girl that is hard to find, is Gracie Brown. We're all blue and we sigh for you. If you change your name, we will know the same as Gracie Brown. One of those things where I guess you kind of had to be there. By no accounts was this a particularly good one. Eventually, she was put in jail for extortion and served 7 to 14 years, and seemed okay with that. Goes to Sing Sing, where they probably did not let her Sing Sing. Not the best joke I ever came up with right there. I should probably get 7 to 14 years for that one. Let's moving on a little bit. This is just 2 years later. A woman named Nan Patterson, also in New York. She was part of the Florodora Sextet, which was a 12-person dance that went on in a show called Florodora. Here was the song and the dance, or a bit of it. This is a dance that a lot of these people seem to have been connected to. The dance that was on stage when the fire broke out at the Iroquois Theater was based on this one.
Tell me, pretty maiden, are there any more at home like you?
There are a few kind girls, but simple girls and proper too.
Then tell me, pretty maiden, what is every simple girl is
Kind sisters and their perfection, and the opposite of mine.
Then take a little walk with me, and then
Okay, we get it. We certainly get it. That was the dance. But while she was working as a chorus girl, she shot a guy named Caesar Young, who was her boyfriend, though he was married to somebody else, in a cab on West Broadway. Now, she said that he shot himself, and this, of course, once again became front page news. Really by 1904, and more often you would have seen photographs in papers, but it was faster and more efficient to get a whole lot of drawings in for a lot of papers, like the Philadelphia Inquirer. But here she is after 3 terrific struggles to accusing Nan Patterson in the murder case. Now, once again, William Travers Jerome was the district attorney. But this went on through 3 different trials. There just wasn't really a whole lot to say, a whole lot to prove. The best evidence was that the gun that had apparently killed Caesar had just been sold at a pawn shop to a couple who looked like Nan's sister and her brother-in-law, who then vanished and couldn't be found as witnesses. The angle of the gun was said to be wrong for it to have been a suicide, and that was her story. They were riding along in the cab, and he decided to shoot himself. Now, she was already an actress herself at the time, at least. She was part of the Florodora Sextet. Nan Patterson's Thanksgiving in Tombs Prison and the dinner bill of fare. Well, what do they have for dinner there? Turkey stuffed with chestnuts, cranberry sauce, stewed tomatoes, mince pie, ice cream, and coffee. I've seen worse. Now, eventually, the defense's story was that no, it hadn't been a suicide and she hadn't shot him. She had been being dramatic in the car and threatening to shoot herself. He tried to grab the gun away from her so she couldn't and ended up accidentally shooting himself, which is possible. But after her sister and her sister's husband were found, the pawnbroker took a look at him and said, okay, maybe that's not the people that I thought it was. And this got to be a trial. This was after a couple of mistrials. The prosecution finally just gave up. They were never going to get enough evidence against her. So she went right back on the stage. But now all of a sudden she wasn't just part of the sextet. She was one of the main attractions. But that doesn't mean that she was good. The performance in Scranton was decidedly poor, it says here. Now, she ended up in this touring burlesque show called The Romance of Panama, at which she just kind of came on and sang a couple of songs at the end. By all accounts, it was pretty meh. It was still banned in a lot of theaters because a lot of people knew that they were cashing in on this possible murderer, but she had been acquitted. But after just a couple of weeks, she quit. I wrote a long thing singing, well, it was people who would force me from the stage. People are, what would you do? I was an actress. This was my job. It's what I do. Just because I got accused of murder doesn't mean I have to quit, but now people are saying that it's all just exploitation if I keep going onto the stage. Possibly if they made her a headliner, one could argue such a thing. The former Nan Patterson, some years later, was also accused of assault. Operating under the name Agnes Young, she was acquitted of having murdered Caesar Young, but she was living in Yonkers, got interested in real estate, and one time a man claimed that that the former Nan had ripped his shirt off and threatened him with a revolver and threw some stones at him after having a dispute. These things happen. But the next case was another person who had associated with the Florodora dance, Evelyn Nesbit. 1906 murder case. Now, Evelyn Nesbit had been an actress but was better known as a model. She was known especially as the Gibson girl. She was a model for an artist named Gibson. And a lot of these pieces of art, a lot of these portraits of her, you still see all over the place. They're really pretty remarkable. But while she was an actress, she got to know Stanford White of McKim, Mead & White, the architecture firm. Stanford White really liked chorus girls. In fact, this is a bit dramatized.
The world was shocked breathless when America's richest playboy, Harry K. Thaw, walked to the table of Stanford White, America's most renowned architect, and shot him dead with a solid gold revolver.
I did it because he ruined my wife.
Few persons knew exactly why he did it, but nearly everybody knew over whom he did it. She was the model for the most famous picture Charles Dana Gibson ever drew. She was the most beautiful Floridora Corrine, the girl who had risen from penniless model to mistress of $40 million. She was Evelyn Nesbit. Starring Ray Milland as Stanford White, Joan Collins as Evelyn Nesbit, Farley Granger as Harry K. Thaw.
I'm going to move heaven and earth to prevent this marriage. I'm going to drag out details of his past that'll make the Sunday supplements blush. I'm going to prove he's not fit to marry any girl.
Evelyn's sin was that she loved the man she couldn't married the man she couldn't love.
If you kissed me, I'd like it very much.
Yep, exactly how it all happened.
Stanford White has the best box. At the horse show, the best seats. What is he, the Sultan of New York?
Legal giants.
So you can just do my whole work for me here.
Slugged it out in an era of raucous glamour and raw sensationalism.
Is it not true
that while you were the paid mistress of Stanford White, you accepted Harry K. Thaw's invitation to a luxurious trip abroad?
So notorious was the case that excerpts from the evidence became a bestseller. CinemaScope lays bare the most scandalous true-life love drama of the century, a story unique in the annals of crime and passion.
Basically, Stanford White was a bad, bad man. Evelyn Nesbit was about 15 when she started going over to his place. He would take her upstairs to see his etchings, and at a certain point he would drug her, and you can probably fill in the rest. Harry Thaw would have used the term ruined, as was common at the time. But this became a big court case because, well, the big case was whether Harry Thaw, her eventual husband, was actually right to do any of this. Once again, William Travers Jerome gets onto the stand. But Harry Thaw was eventually acquitted. The marriage did not last. But she went back onto the stage. Here you can see her starring in Redemption. And this actually played at the Chicago Auditorium in 1913. Here she is dancing. Most of the time she was just playing minor roles after this. Also played the Colonial Theater, which was also the former Iroquois at one point. And a show called The Wild Rose. At that time, well, she's acting with Eddie Foy there, who was on stage at the time of the Iroquois Theater fire. This would have been at the auditorium right down over here. But really by the time she was really an adult, she was just kind of appearing as a curiosity on stage more than anything else. Well, here's a clip of her.
Mr. Girl. Evelyn Nesbit. So this ends a 5 years war, and I'm Miss plan, but I got rid of the cat. Because the cat's name was Pat. I won't even have a mailbox in my flat. Because I know that's
Evelyn Nesbit, everybody, not listening to the orchestra she's supposed to be singing with. Florodora Dancer, we'll say that again. So here we are in New York City. We are going to move about 5 years ahead in history up to 1911 and check out one of my favorite buildings, the Ansonia Hotel on the Upper West Side. I'll be near there in about a week from tonight, in fact. I'll be right up by there. Now, this place was one of my favorites. I absolutely love this place. It was built by a guy by the name of W.E.D. Stokes. And when this was a hotel originally, it had a farm up on the roof, so all the residents got free eggs. There were like goats and chickens living up on the roof. There was a fountain with actual seals right in the lobby. People like Babe Ruth lived in this place. It was very, very cool building. Eventually, we've also seen it on some of the other tours, like the time travel pub crawls. Later in the 1970s, it became a bathhouse called the Continental Baths, where Bette Midler would perform while Barry Manilow, dressed only in a towel, played piano for her. Then it became Plato's Retreat, a swingers club in the 1980s. Interesting place. W.E.D. Stokes was a very odd duck. He was dating a woman named Lillian, but was married to someone else. Lillian and her friend Ethel came up with the idea that they should blackmail him. This is Lillian. They'd send him plenty of letters, so they showed up at the place and ended up shooting him. As you do. Sometimes when a blackmail just doesn't go right, what can you do? So, as soon as before they were even acquitted, I think, they ended up going on stage, Lily and Ethel, as the Shooting Showgirls. That was actually what they called them. They came out and played something called That Mysterious Rag. By no account a good thing. A good song. I've got the sheet music for it. But this all showed up at the old Hammerstein's Theater. Now, this was run by a guy by the name of Willie Hammerstein, who was kind of known for his freak acts. His brother, Oscar II, was that Hammerstein, Oscar and Hammerstein. But Stokes told the whole story. Death or blackmail were my choices. The jury ended up freeing them. And by all accounts, their act sucked. Lillian Graham and Ethel Conrad in songs, Miss Graham at the piano. The Graham-Conrad act was the only one of 14 turns that was not liberally applauded. When Miss Conrad in pale blue and Miss Graham in pink sang That Mysterious Rag and presented their ideas of dancing, some spectators laughed and a few hissed, and there were catcalls. That's really a bit of it here.
Did you hear it? What? Were you near it? No. If you weren't, then you've yet to fear it. Yes? Once you met it, well, you'll regret it. Why? Just because you never will forget it. If you ever wake up from your dreaming, screaming, eyes gleaming, then if suddenly you take a screaming fit, yes, that's it, that's what? That mysterious rag. While awake or while you're slumbering, you're saying, keep playing that mysterious rag. Are you listening? Yes, keep listening. Look, they're whistling that mysterious rag. Pinky, ever melodious, mysterious rag. That mysterious rag. While awake or while you're slumbering, you're saying, keep saying that mysterious rag. Are you listening? Are you listening? Look, yes. Look. They're whistling that mysterious rag. melodious, mysterious rag. Any minute.
All right, so yeah, Layla found me the sheet music to this. I don't think she realized that this was a connection to the show. She just saw this title like, oh, Adam would like this. So, but yeah, I know that song. We're moving right along. So this is Beulah Binford. She was dating a guy by the name of Henry Clay Beatty in Richmond at the age of 17. They'd been off and on boyfriend and girlfriend ever since she was 13. She had his baby at the age of 15, but it was given away for adoption. So at 17, Harry was married to somebody else. They reconnected, and Henry shot his wife to death in a car. Now, he said it wasn't him, it was a man with a goatee, but he could never remember whether the goatee was white or black. Most likely he had shot her himself so he could go off and be with Beulah instead. Now, Beulah was never suspected of any of this stuff. She definitely had nothing to do with it. Nobody tried to claim that she put him up to it. Nobody tried to claim that she was the man with the goatee. Look, come to think of it, However, she was slammed in the press as the other woman. This became one of those sensational front-page stories. She became famous just in and of herself for her connection to it. And, of course, used that to launch a career on vaudeville. Beulah Binford, who is coming to go on the stage here. Next stuff about the Astors. Girl in Beatty murder rushing here to make her debut in vaudeville. So, she tried a vaudeville career, but it didn't go on very well. But this is, here's a nice letter to the editor about it from the business secretary of the Professional Women's League. If this girl is permitted to go on the stage, it will be even worse than the sight of those dreadful Shooting Showgirls giving their shocking performances in vaudeville. I thought the time had passed for the sort of thing when Nan Patterson was hissed off the stage, but it seems it hasn't. All I can say is there should be a law passed to prevent such a thing, a law that would protect the people and the stage and the poor girls themselves. Like, what? If you've ever been connected to a sensational murder trial, you're not allowed to go on the stage? What exactly what kind of law could you pass that would have stopped Beulah Binford from going on stage? I can't really think of one. But not much of her work survives. She was in a silent film that, like most silent films, do not survive. She was also in a play called Grandma. She had a few lines. She played the part of the maid. She answers Grandma's bell, says, "A letter," and then, 12 years? And finally, "Oh, give her a chance." This was not a particularly demanding role for her. Apparently that was about what they found that they could do. That was enough. That she was on the stage, that got the butts in the seats. That's really about all you could ask for. So we're into the 1920s now. We'll skip ahead about 15 years in history. To what some people called the Age of Beautiful Nonsense. This was one of those scandalous stories that they cited when they referred to this as the Age of Beautiful Nonsense. This is Peaches Browning, who was 15 when she met and married Daddy Browning on the right, who was 51 years old. Real estate developer. She left him about 6 months later and asked for a legal separation and alimony. Now, at the time in New York, you couldn't get a divorce unless there was actual adultery in the case. So they brought in all of these letters talking about, "Dear Daddy, you really are my Prince Charming." But also, in court, he said that he would keep a pet goose in the living room that would honk at her all the time, gave her dolls and things, asked her to do something that was said to be a crime against nature, later revealed to be eating breakfast naked. You never can tell what they're going for when they say crime against nature in these articles. But it was enough. He wasn't able to get a divorce, but it was at least granted the separation. But Daddy especially was a major publicity hound. He always wanted her to be photographed in public, always wanted her to meet weirdos just because it might make a headline if she met some notable person. The judge sided with him. He got the alimony. He didn't have to pay any alimony. One quote that she had about him was, "His hands have not had intimate relations with soap and water in a long while." And he tried to demonstrate, no, I'm definitely lively enough to be marrying a 15-year-old. Look at me playing leapfrog with this guy. Peaches herself ended up using this notoriety, of course, to go on the stage. Here she is appearing at the Rainbow at Clark and Lawrence. Here's where that is now, right across the street, really, from St. Boniface Cemetery. And speaking of the crime against nature, she mentioned that he himself committed the crime against nature pretty regularly, I believe. But she managed to keep it up on stage a lot longer than some of these people did. Here she is playing at the Senate Theater at Madison and Kedzie. A little bit further out of town. And you're at the State and Lake. That's really right downtown. Only doing one show, too, at about 1 p.m. in person. Now, if you're only doing one show a day in vaudeville, that was still the big time, really. And eventually she was even at the Congress Theater. But she kind of faded away as her star faded. She wasn't a big enough presence on the stage itself to make it entirely on her own merits. But she was still turning up in the news. Here she is in 1954. On vaudeville, she had sung a song called, did a monologue and sang a song called When Flaming Youth Marries Bitter Old Age. Now, in the 1950s, she allegedly had an affair with Milton Berle and was occasionally plotting comebacks, but nothing ever quite came of it. You know, vaudeville at the time, no matter how good she had been on the vaudeville stage, in 1954, vaudeville was pretty much dead. And in this article, she talked about how she was kind of planning to go into television at some point. At that point, she had married 4 times, in addition to dating Milton Berle. After years of obscurity, she hopes for comeback. She passed away not long after this. But now we'll move up to 1932, 6 years later. This is Violet Valley, who was what was known as a baseball Annie. A more modern term might be baseball groupie. At one point in the later 20th century, both the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox were managed by guys who had long ago dated Violet Valley. But one day she decided to shoot William Jurgis, Billy Jurgis, the shortstop. He had been living at a place called the Hotel Carlos, which in fact still stands not too far away from Wrigley Field. In 1932, he was dating Violet Valley, but she got mad at him for some reason. Maybe he didn't want to get married. So she showed up at the hotel and shot him. And shot it herself, too. Didn't do a very good job in either case. Billy was put in the hospital and decided this, where he said, look, don't press any charges, just please make all of this go away. He was back playing before too long again. And Violet got a gig on the stage at a theater that would have been right across from where, at the State Congress Theater at State and Congress, right about where we are now. Not too far from the Congress Hotel, across the corner from the Harold Washington Library. And she was in a show there called The Bear Cub Follies. Bear, get it? A screamingly funny burlesque production. Violet Valley, the girl who shot for love. Now, she claimed that she had love letters that could absolutely wreck the Cubs. But baseball on vaudeville was not really unusual. I don't know what she did in the Bear Cub Follies. I've never heard a really good description of what it was. But, Babe Ruth made more money on vaudeville than he made playing for the Yankees. During the offseason, he would go around singing a song about how he hates striking out and maybe hit wiffle balls into the crowd. That made him more money than actually playing the game. We'll up to one more here. This is Dorothy Pollock, 1932, also at the State and Congress Theater later on, but in 1932, she shot her husband to death and said that he had been coming after her with a knife. So it was really just self-defense. Now, she had also been dating Dingbat Oberta, who was one of the gangsters in Chicago. But this was, by the 1930s, the Chicago newspapers really had how to present this stuff, and their lawyers, too, had this well presented, kind of down to a science, wondering, what'll I wear on the trial? And just to kind of get the ball rolling while still on trial, talked about how she always wanted to be a chorus girl. She was defended by W. O'Brien, who was the inspiration for Billy Flynn in Chicago, who taught her to clean up her acts, get some pictures of you praying. And that seemed to do the trick. Now, her cousin was on stage with her. He said that it was a paring knife, not a butcher knife that he was coming after. It was still a knife. And that was enough. She was acquitted. And went on the State Congress Theater. Once again, right there. Where she made something like $1,000 a week going on stage. Probably just singing songs. Burlesque was a pretty broad term at the time. It didn't necessarily mean burlesque as we think of it now. But it might have too. The Smith & Wesson Follies. Shooting Showgirls was already taken. Okay. Later, she just kind of gave a monologue about her stuff. Dorothy Pollock, the courtroom beauty. Hear her dramatic story. There she is getting all set. All right. I'll leave that there 1 second while I try to fix up the upcoming events. Give me 1 second for that. Okay, number 16. Just typing stuff out here. See, this is what I forgot to do today. I knew there was something. And we'll find out if I've got... All right, on to the upcoming stuff. So, Thursday night, a week from tonight, I will be in New York, so Mandy Cripp will be beaming in here on Mysterious Chicago to talk about jerks in Chicago history, one of her presentations. So just because I'm out of town doesn't mean you guys will have to spend Thursday night all by yourselves. 2 more in-person tours are scheduled for the year. Weather's holding, so I might put one up for the weekend after this. Saturday is Graceland, but that one is sold out. And November 12th, we still have a few tickets left for the supersize edition of Rose Hill Cemetery. So always a lot of stuff coming up. Welcome. Thanks everybody for joining me tonight. I will put the thanks button back up here, and we will just hang out about like we always do. So thanks a lot for joining me. I'm Adam from Mysterious Chicago Tours, telling you all to stay safe and stay strong and stay spooky. And here's Benny Goodman. I'm sure you'll all be on your best behavior for Mandy, sure. Thank you, Kathleen. They'd be glad to be there for you. Yep, Find a Grave Friday is tomorrow, Carol. That's correct.
And that would put rhythm in the feet of a wooden Indian. That was the bugle call rag, Benny Goodman's own arrangement. Now, the popular tune, Thanks a Million.
Gina, yeah, it's still fall in Chicago. That winter hasn't quite hit us yet. Looks like we got another week or so. It's been a lovely fall, in fact. Dana, I will be in New York next week. Digging in the archives. I just found one really tantalizing clue today that I don't think they're going to have anything more on it. Oh, I did forget to mention, Tuesday, there's going to be a new series on Netflix called How to Become a Mob Boss, on which I am a talking head. So I'm going to be on Netflix. That's on Tuesday. They just sent me some stuff about him. I didn't get a chance to go through it.
Down Harlem Way, they're all trucking. And here's Helen Ward to tell you all about her. Trucking.
Thanks to those of you kicking in on here. Yeah, Mandy will be babysitting you next week. I'm not taking any donations for next week. It's all going to hers. Please tip Mandy well. Now, I have no way of knowing at this point whether that show is going to be great or not. I'll probably have a hard time being able to bear to watch it. Certainly on Tuesday, I'll be otherwise occupied. Oh, and I may have a phone call about the Johann Hawk book to make tomorrow, as a matter of fact. It's kind of becoming a matter of how can I fit this into a word count that they want this publisher wants me to. There's a publisher that definitely wants to do the Johann Hawk book, but I don't know if they have a vision for it that I can work within. Susan, is called something like How to Be a Mob Boss. Let me see here.
On the Alamo.
Came in while I was at the, How to Become a Mob Boss. Follow up to How to Become a Tyrant and How to Become a Cult Leader. I filmed it like a year ago, well over a year ago. No, it launches November 14th. So that is on Tuesday. They've sent me a link to the trailer. Hang on, let me, That's not a link that I can actually share. Really help if I could share it. Wouldn't it now?
The mob mentality is anyone that hasn't took the oath
Well.
is a sucker. We don't just kill people. We see what the public wants, and we give it to them.
There's more than one way to make it into the Fortune 500.
You want money, power, respect. You want to be the boss.
These criminal giants achieved heights most mortals can only dream of.
You don't make 30 billion by accident.
Follow their examples, and you too can get the money, power, and respect you've been denied for too long. Let me show you what I mean.
On the street, everybody wants to take from you what you have.
You can hear
and
it
you always
anyway.
got to protect
I'm watching
that. And violence is the best way to do it.
Becoming a mob boss requires discipline,
Escobar carefully curated his public profile.
an entrepreneurial mindset,
They're controlling the booze business. They were making so much money, it was crazy.
and the willingness to do anything to protect your power.
He could get to anyone.
The message is, if you mess with us, we don't care how protected you are, we will kill you.
The happy days probably won't last forever.
He was living a double life. He knew what would happen if we found out.
One slip could lead to disaster.
Thousands of innocent people were killed.
Sure, this life isn't for everybody,
That's a rat move. John Gotti destroyed the mafia.
but to the visionary go the greatest rewards.
He's the richest criminal in the whole world.
Ready to begin launching your own empire?
Okay, well, it looks like I'm not in the trailer, so I don't need to be sharing that. So there. Yeah. Cooperative asset, that's what I am. Yeah, it doesn't say a thing about the underpants. I would have led with that, personally. Carol, I think Ronnie's book is out in April. Oh, okay, well, I will. I can't put up the poster though. I just download that, and I'll put that up in here. Click allow. Yep, coming your way this Tuesday. I've downloaded the Spanish version. All right. Coming to Netflix on Tuesday. I wonder when this thing was coming out. I was thinking it was coming out next year at some point. I just hope I don't feel like I was having a good hair day the day that we filmed this. My hair is a strange beast. Let's put the Benny back on, for goodness sake. Cindy, I'm a talking head. I'm the guy. So Capone knew that he had to act fast. I remember they kept wanting me to talk about Capone having a press conference. Like, he called a reporter. He would not have had a public press conference. Good night, Susan. Laura, yeah, Miles was on earlier. I don't know where he's gone now. But he came on pre-tour. He got it out of the way. Let me see if I can find him, though.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and we stay right in the urban room of the Congress Hotel in Chicago and dance some more to Benny Goodman and his orchestra and hear Helen Ward sing Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I'm not sure where he's at right now. Curled up on one of his spots, I'm sure. Now, Miles' contract is just that he has to show up once in each long tour. And that includes before the tour, as long as he's on the broadcast. Laura Lily's doing great. She doesn't appear much on here. She does not like being picked up much. And she doesn't come to the living room that often either. Sometimes she does. Is your cat coming in? I thought I heard one padding in here.
And we'll let the title speak for itself. Benny Goodman presenting Madhouse.
All right, veg on out, Kathy. That sounds like a good idea. I'm going to let Benny finish up this tune. But once again, everybody, coming up a week from tonight, Mandy Crypt is going to be babysitting you all with a presentation on Jerks from Chicago. On the 11th, that's Saturday, we'll be doing Graceland Supersize. That one is sold out. November 12th, Sunday at noon, Rose Hill Supersize, a double-length tour. Just a few tickets for that one remaining. And that may be it for the season. I may add a couple depending on how the weather is looking for next weekend. But always a lot going on here at Mysterious Chicago. So everybody, thanks a lot for joining me. I'm Adam from Mysterious Chicago Tours, telling everybody to stay safe and stay strong. And of course, if you can, stay spooky, everybody. We'll fade out the music. And have a good night.